coaching changes based on like, what goes in and what goes out. But yeah, I'll just stay with my boys and all that. Mm-hmm. There was talks of maybe picking up a third team, but it's like I'd rather offer extra for my boys' team. Like I'd rather just do more instead of doing 3 practices a week. I'd rather 4 practices a week for each. They maximize more than just pick up another team and do less with the teams I have than do that. I'd rather do that personally.
I was the exact same. And what would happen was I worked for a club that wouldn't allow that.
More than
right, and because then you get other coaches. You get other coaches that say, well, or other parents that have other coaches that say, well, Yohan's team is training 4 times. Why can't we train? And then the coach would be like, don't compare me to Yohan. Don't like, but saying me. So I was wondering if there's like structure at Clarence of saying you can only do this, you can only do that. I mean, is anybody training at a gym?
Yeah, I train at a gym.
Yeah, I love
futsal.
I miss training in gyms. And think about all the passing sequences you do in here.
But now the ball's bouncing.
But you could do that with that, and you could do it with a futsal ball.
Yeah.
And just do all your normal sessions, but do it with a futsal ball. And I swear, if you give 5 months of training with a futsal ball, the second you go outside, we have so much more control and so much more. Oh, I miss those days when I was in team training in the gym.
Yeah, the kids love it. The kids absolutely love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I chose like as a the club does require you to do like if you're a white team you need to do 2 practices, 3 tournaments. Not any indoor league if you don't want to. If you're a red team you need to do like 2 practices a week, 3 tournaments, and like 1 indoor league. The black team you have session, 3. Yeah. Like because it's different.
Does it go
cost.
Black, red, white?
It goes white with there's like blue too every once in a while, but it's like white and blue.
Yep.
Red, black. Black's the highest
Black's
level.
the highest. Okay.
So that's like the club does require like if you're a certain team because it costs more for the families, so they should get more out of it.
Okay.
But for me, like as a black team, technically, I'd have 3 practices a week, and the club would set out 3 turf times a week. Now I made it so that I have 2 turf times and 1 gym time, and one of my turf time is full field. I set it up so that I can work on passing patterns and bigger field, and start doing that. But to be fair, I very rarely scrimmage full field.
Yeah.
Even if I have numbers, I'll do half the field because like I said, I'd rather
like tight spaces,
more pressure, more decision making, all that.
Realistic pressure. Yeah.
And again, there's pros and cons to that. Like, there's more running if it's full field and stuff like that.
Right.
But, I'd rather do the decision making. I rarely anytime the boys run, it's not like, oh, we're going to go for a run or we're going to do that. It's you lost this game, you're doing a sprint here and there, and then we're back at it. Like, you're going to run during the drills. You're going to work during the drills.
Right.
I'm not going to waste the 1 hour that we get to make you guys run. You can do that on your own. You don't need me to.
Yeah.
And some players won't do it on their own, but then, you see the players that are physically fit. And unfortunately for them, like soccer is a very, very demanding physical sport.
Absolutely.
Like, it's crazy.
You picked cross country with a soccer ball.
Yeah. It is and at the higher and higher level, it is absolutely crazy how physically demanding of a sport it is.
Yeah.
And again, you can get away. You don't have to be the fastest, strongest player. Like some of the best players in the world aren't.
Right.
But they can run for days.
Yep.
It's crazy.
I once about how you play smaller side.
Yeah,
even though you have a full field. I love that because, hey guys, thanks for watching this episode of the I Hate Soccer podcast. If you feel stuck in your recruiting process, we created a guide that includes feedback from 15 college coaches and 10 current college soccer players. Inside this guide, you'll find out what really works in recruiting, from showcases, ID camps, highlight reels, and more. Check it out at playmakertraining.com/recruited. There's one time I went and watched Tottenham train in person, and I'm very anti touch restrictions, especially on my backline players and my goalkeeper when they have time. Because I feel that what it develops is players that don't want to be on the ball and like a little bit nervous. What Tottenham does instead, and this was actually when Pochettino was the coach, which is now our national team coach. Instead of playing full field, they played 11v11 in the width of the 18 in one half. They were playing 11v11. And it's like, that's natural touch restrictions. Because like what we were talking about in here, nobody can dribble multiple guys because you're going to get wrecked. So your decision making has to be so much faster in an 11v11 width of the 18 field than an unnecessary touch restriction. I'd rather shrink the space, put them in here, rather than I've seen some trainers play 5v5 on an 8v8 and 9v9 field.
Yeah.
And it's like, that's not really helping because you're developing such bad habits. This guy can dribble all over the place.
Yeah.
And then they put even more unrealistic restrictions like, okay, in the defensive half, we got to play 1 and 2 touch. It's unlimited in the attacking half. I'm like, I can't stand that. So if I'm a goalkeeper and I take 3 touches, what happens? Oh, it's a foul. Oh, it's a free kick. It's an indirect free kick. And I'm like, yes, that's very realistic. It's like we're putting unrealistic restrictions on the game, and it just drives me nuts.
Yeah. And again, like I see both. I agree with you that like when you're putting a touch restriction, 2 touch, 3 touch, and all that, like sometimes it just makes no sense.
Right.
Because nobody pressed that player. So he should take as many touches and all that. And sometimes the bad habits it create is players think that they always have to one touch it. When it's like you don't have to one.
You had time.
Did you hear me say man on? Like I'm and again some programs and some coaches and whatever be like, don't joystick your players.
Right.
But it's like I'm providing them with what I can see, which maybe they can't see, and I'm always gonna talk, and I'm always gonna be like, what I think and again, if I tell a player to, hey, come press right there, and he gets beat, like I told him to do that. He listened to me. Like if he gets beat, I'm not gonna be like,
And we're working with 12 and 13-year-old kids.
Yeah.
He didn't scan, he didn't check his shoulder, and nobody on his teammates is telling him time or man on. So what's wrong with me telling him time or man on? And 100%. About the one touch. And I feel when I go to youth games, most of the turnovers are because they didn't take enough touches versus they played too quickly or they played too slow. You know what I mean?
So it was like those are the things where it's like sometimes I feel like I do it to myself because I do some touch restrictions depending on drills and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like they're so like into it, but I always have it where like, listen, the goal is, can we play one touch? Like, if we could play one touch soccer, it's like like defense isn't going to get organized. Nobody's going to shift.
Exactly.
The standard should be like 2 touches. There's a goal and a standard.
Yep.
It's like you always should be able to take 2 touches. Even if you have a man on, if you use your body properly, very rarely will they win the ball without a foul if you use it properly. Yeah. If they really want the ball, they're going to run you over and it's going to be like a foul and stuff like that. So it's like sometimes I'm like, you had a touch. Like, take a touch, then pass it.
Yep.
But
and then when they do get wrecked because they took too many touches, I'll just be like, hey, did you learn from that? Next time that happens, are you going to take that many touches? And most of the time say no. Or the kid is like, what do you? People always say, well, what do you do with the kid that tries to dribble too much? Like, well, I'll tell everybody else on the team, like, why aren't we punishing him for trying to dribble everybody? Why are we allowing him to dribble? Kick him. Just kick him once. When Max Quitchoff, who played at Rhode Island, plays at Albany, when he was 11 years old, he would come to my invite-only stuff, and he would just torch kids. And instead of saying, okay, Max, you only have 2 touches, it's like, that's not helping him. I forced like Kyle Pollard and some of those other guys would be like, do you guys like being embarrassed by Max? Kick him. Just please kick him. But then you could also,
Like there's so many different things. Like
There's
small
so
sided,
many
if
different
somebody's
ways
sitting
you
in front of
could
the
do.
net, shoot the ball as hard as you can.
Exactly.
I'm never going to be like, hey, I want you to injure this player. Like, that's not what I'm here.
Right.
I'm like, trust me, if you shoot it once hard and he gets hit in the side or the leg,
Yeah.
odds are the kid's probably not going to want to stand right next to the net again. Like, just
exactly. It happens in here
it's
all
just
the time.
Like, I don't want to hear you complain that the kid's in front of the net. Hit it once, twice. If a player will just eat it and soak it, I like that defender. I'll take that. Like I don't mind it either.
Yeah.
Right. And then for the touch, if somebody's dribbling too much, the biggest thing I do is like I'll just do a one touch finish. So they can dribble as much as they want, but they got to pass it. And if they get frustrated because there's nobody coming with them, it also like if you don't have players supporting you making runs off the ball. You're also not doing it right too.
Yeah, absolutely. And it'll hopefully teach players to crash the net as well. Because the easiest way to score goals is one-touch rebounds. Just boop. And that's where that came from, actually. Because I used to always just say, anytime a shot comes back, it's a rebound. Get a one touch. And she made that for me. But
I just saw a little YouTube training session with Brighton Albion.
Okay.
And they put rebounders in the net.
I love that.
So if you hit those rebounders, it
comes
pop
right
up,
back out.
and then either defense has to react or offense you have to react to.
So emergency defending, and
I started doing that too. I started putting rebounds in the net on certain drills when I can. And
love that.
First of all, with the college level, it was so good.
Yeah.
And then with the other boys, like, sometimes
have you done it with our kick walls? The brown ones? The wood ones?
Yeah, the brown ones.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. I saw it and I was like, those little things, it's like, you never think about it. I would never put a rebounder in the net. But I saw it once and I was like.
You know how I flip them over?
Yeah.
And you do it sometimes too. And I got that from Marcelo Moreira because he was doing a goalkeeper session with him. And I'm like, I love that. It's like, you ever work with a coach that's like,
it's like, you genius. Like, why did I never
that? But also the whole, well, I don't want you to come watch my training sessions because I don't want you knowing our secrets. Or please don't filming. No, don't film our sessions. It's like, dude, there's no secrets. And if there are like cool things, share them. Yeah. That's why I'm starting this. Like I've done a lot of these with college players, but now I got Rudy Pomper from Stallions. You're in here. Matt Waddington's coming in here hopefully in the next week or so we can talk Eagles, Chiefs. And then multiple coaches, just because I like talking soccer, and I feel like in Buffalo we're not that much of a soccer community right now. I feel like it's the big dog and then everybody else. And I want to like close that gap of like, dude, there's a lot of good people in this area. And stop saying, well, Buffalo doesn't have enough players, and stop saying Buffalo doesn't have a good enough coaches. Yeah, we do.
I hate soccer.